This episode of Headlock Talk is brought to you by
Austin-based company Naturally Hemp's and their new line of CBD gummies. These gummies are made with 100% baked-in, pharmaceutical-grade, terpene and cannabinoid-rich, non-isolate-based CBD. What we're talking about here is the entourage effect. These CBD gummies have multiple cannabinoids in them to give you the full effect of a full-spectrum CBD. Unlike some other brands that use a spray-on CBD, Naturally Hemp CBD distillate is baked in, so you know you're getting the full dose with each gummy. I personally use them for all kinds of things like sleep or muscle pain. And they also have 5 really great flavors. They have strawberry, green apple, lemon lime, watermelon, and the orange flavor has vitamin C in it. So if this sounds like it would work for you, head over to your nearest Create-A-Sig vape shop and pick up yours today to see for yourself the difference Naturally Hemp's gummies can make in your life.
I guess we're not going to talk about anything. I mean, I guess so. We're about to spend a lot of time talking about something. A couple things. Are we talking about Headlock Talk? Or are we serious? Well. I mean, are we really ever doing anything? Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and have another episode of Headlock Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Tanner Pruitt. To my left here, just recently released from quarantine here, Mr. J-Raw, Mixmaster Producer Extraordinaire J-Raw.
Yes.
You said you were going to do that, and I still wasn't ready for it.
Somehow, I was not at work. But yet I'm still getting off work.
But you're back and better than ever, right?
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. I'm glad to see you again, J-Raw. I'm glad you're in good health.
I'm glad they let me out.
And then to my right here, Mr. Stephen Groody. It's been a long week for you as well, sir. Can you bring us up to speed as to what you've been up to?
I fell down some stairs.
Stephen fell down some stairs, and it looks like he's either like injured a ligament in his leg, or maybe possibly broken something.
It's not broken. The doctor said fairly certain that it was not broken, which is a little less sure than I want my doctor to be. But she was about 99% sure that it's not broken.
That's good.
So, well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, 99% is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's better than
98%.
Yeah, or 3
or 3%. Yeah, I'm 3% sure.
Very
it's not
true.
Broken.
Very true.
I mean, it's a better percentage than I would have given it.
Yeah, it definitely felt broken.
So you've had a serious leg injury. J-Raw's been sick, and I've been in a car accident and without my own car for about a month here. So we apologize that it's taken so long for us to get back in, but it's been a long couple weeks for us.
It's been a ride.
It's been quite a ride.
Yeah.
It's been a little interesting.
But you know what? We're glad to be back with you guys now.
Yes, indeed.
So if you're listening, I hope you enjoyed today's show. I think we've got a lot of catching up to do, you guys.
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
Also, make sure you guys check out our newest episode of the Knockout series on YouTube. Just released that new series last week, and I think it came out really well, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So definitely give that a check out.
Yeah, we really enjoyed making that Knockout series. If you like a shorter format, you don't have as much time to spend listening to us go on for at length about wrestling. You can check out the shorter Knockout series on YouTube. We highly recommend it. That way, so we can keep you guys up to news and events as we go throughout a week. So let's get down to maybe catching people up. I know this is a little bit of the Royal Rumble was what 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to catch up there and start with kind of a brief rundown of the shows and talk about how we felt about the shows and kind of what's transpired afterwards here, you guys. So to NXT Takeover Phoenix. I absolutely loved this show.
Great pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
Of the 5 matches that were on the main card of the show, I would have given at least 3 of them, 4 to 5 stars, just depending on which match you're looking at here.
I don't think anything was less than a 4.
I agree for sure. There was definitely some really nice matches in here. I know we're gonna get into it, but that Gargano Ricochet match was nuts.
Absolutely.
And the implications of the outcome of that match at the end. But no spoilers.
Of course, no. We'll get into that here.
Yeah.
The implications were heavy. To kick off the show, we got the War Raiders versus Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team Championships.
What a match.
It was a great match. The intro was really cool too because they brought out a score of Vikings.
Yeah, they had the Viking Knights out there with the shields. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. They put on a heck of a match, Undisputed Era and War Raiders. Some real back and forth action. I think the story being told here is the bigger War Raiders, the more physical War Raiders were able to overcome all the technical
teamwork
and teamwork, the technique and teamwork of Undisputed Era.
Yeah, and I think this was almost sort of a quasi rematch or a comeuppance for War Games and what happened in there.
Absolutely. There's some pretty awesome spots where Hansen would cartwheel out of the way of different moves.
Yes.
Yeah, guy is super agile for his size and his frame.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what blew me away about the match is the athleticism of the big guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Man.
Yeah, they were damn near moving faster in that ring than Undisputed Era was. Those guys are crazy. Just really, really insane ring work. And one thing I thought was really cool is while Tanner and I were watching the Takeover game or Takeover show, we actually had another friend of ours, Chase, watch it with us, and he is now a fan of War Raiders, and he actually doesn't watch wrestling. So if that tells you anything about the show that War Raiders puts on.
Yeah, Chase seemed hooked from this NXT Takeover show. So congrats, Chase. I'm glad that your first show was probably one of the better shows that I've ever seen. So, War Raiders went over here in about 17 minutes. Very, very good match. I'm rating it about 4.5 out of 5 myself. It's probably as good of a tag team match as you're ever going to see.
Yeah, and the good thing about this one is I feel like for me personally, I'm not sure with you guys, but tag matches in general seem to just drag for me and seem to take a long time in between spots and things like that. But with this match, it didn't even feel like 17 minutes. It felt like way shorter than that because they filled it with really solid ring work.
Right. Yeah. And to kind of go off what you're saying about tag matches, I feel like a 5 out of 5 star tag team match is a whole lot more difficult to get than a 5-star singles match.
I agree.
Just in general.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is, like I said, about 4.5 out of 5. This is about as perfect as you can get for a tag team match.
Definitely.
That one was great. Moving on here, we had a little bit more of just a direct one-on-one feud between Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno in a singles match. This was mostly built to make sure that Matt Riddle could be propped up as just someone who's got a lot of heart and a lot of will, and somebody who can power through a hard-hitting match.
Surprisingly physical match. A lot of physical spots. What are they called? That Kenny Omega does.
Oh, the knee?
V-triggers?
The V-triggers, yeah.
Little mini V-triggers to
kind of sprinkled in throughout, yeah, for sure.
To go.
There was a few spots with Cassius Ohno where one in particular, actually two, Matt Riddle, I believe, was like in the ropes, and Cassius Ohno came in and booted him right in the mouth, and then you got an instant replay, and it's clearly like Cassius Ohno boots him right in the mouth as Matt Riddle seated, kind of propped against the ropes. So that looked really stiff. There was another spot where Cassius Ohno bites Matt Riddle's feet because
because he's shoeless.
He's shoeless.
Yeah.
If you didn't know this about Matt Riddle, he does not wrestle with shoes, or boots for that matter. So that was interesting. But yeah, overall a good hard-hitting match. Matt Riddle wins with raining down some elbows on Cassius Ohno, so he got the ref stoppage, kind of UFC style.
Yeah.
MMA style, yeah. Yeah, finish. I like that adding that in there, it's a nice, twist just to see a different way of a match finishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the ref being like, okay, there's no possible way you're winning this. Let's end this.
And it shows another dimension of Matt Riddle because we get him. He's like the original bro.
Bro.
Yeah,
that's how they're building him for sure. It showed intensity on his part to close out a match like that in such a brutal fashion. So I was a big fan of it. I'm giving this one probably about a 3.5 for me, which is above average. It was a solid match and it did what it absolutely needed to do, which was put over Matt Riddle.
No, I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Moving on to what I would say was my favorite match of the whole weekend, of Royal Rumble weekend, Johnny Gargano versus Ricochet for the NXT North American Championship. Came in just right under 24 minutes, and all of it was absolutely awesome.
Mind-blowing spots.
Absolutely.
Mind-blowing.
If you're a fan of like this, I don't want to call it like indie style per se, but it is a style that you do see.
It's what it is. Yeah, it's what you'll see around. Yeah.
You do see a lot of this kind of thing on the indies, but the storytelling here was Ricochet being the high flyer that he is, and how can Johnny Gargano keep him grounded long enough to stake his claim for the title. I mean, again, I can't praise this match enough. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Finish was great. And we got a new North American champion. Yeah, no,
definitely some crazy spots. Some really, really hard-hitting stuff from Gargano in this match, which I thought was cool. We're seeing a little bit more of maybe his heel-ness coming out in his wrestling style. And then, obviously, just getting more of Ricochet and the crazy high-flying stuff. One thing that he did... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say it. And I like the storyline here of how Ciampa, is trying to plant in his head, you want to be the North American champion, and, he's like, I think for myself, but then he ends up doing, what was expected of him, and it's, it's just interesting. I mean, these guys generate so much heat with their work alone. Then it's like the storyline is secondary, but I want to bring out that storyline's good too.
Yeah, but they even do it so well, even with it being in the background, they still sell it so well.
Well, and I will also take note of this here for this match. Oh, go ahead.
I'll say real quick because I don't even think the crowd cares that Gargano is turned like heel.
Right.
It's like it's supposed to be this moment where it's like, boo, you were going bad, but it's like. Everything was awesome.
Yeah.
They just elicit that reaction.
It's sincere appreciation for the ring work.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's just like
there was a spot. I don't remember if it was a powerbomb spot or if a Frankenstein spot. There was just. But I remember there was a spot where Johnny Gargano was going to perform a move on Ricochet, who was seated on the top turnbuckle, and Ricochet flips. And walks away feet touch the ground
like a badass.
I know what you're talking about when he tried to send him over and mid-air he flips out of it.
Yeah,
and lands
on his feet like a cat. Ricochet is amazing.
And Gargano was shocked that what.
Yeah, one of my favorite spots from the match was I remember you and I were watching it together, Tanner, and. Ricochet did something that I've never seen before. He did a springboard jump over the turnbuckle pole.
He said,
out of the ring.
He said, "Don't worry, I got him." The crowd was like, "Boo!" because he had.
That was nuts.
Yeah, because Gargano had come out of whatever he tried to do, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about it," and he just
and I've never seen that before, and I always thought if someone ever did that, it'd be crazy, super super close. There wouldn't be much clearance, but Ricochet cleared it with a foot to spare. Yeah. It was nuts.
And still somersault.
He's brilliantly talented. Like the things that happened in this match were outstanding.
Yeah.
To me, it's my favorite match of the entire Royal Rumble weekend. I don't know if you guys agree, but I'm giving
it's definitely up there.
5.
Yeah, I'm giving that 5 stars right there. Yeah. That's you need to watch that match. So definitely, if you don't have WWE Network already, it's only $10 a month. Go ahead and subscribe.
Worth your money.
Worth your money. And check out this match here at NXT Takeover Phoenix. Watch the whole show. Really, I mean, you really can't go wrong. Shayna Baszler versus Bianca Belair for this in a singles match for the NXT Women's Championship match. Surprising.
I like Belair.
You like Bianca Belair? Yeah. It was a good match for sure. At the co-main event spot. Bianca Belair really surprised me a lot. There was this really brutal spot in the match where Bianca Belair, she's got very, very long hair, so she has it tied up in like a braid, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about women's hair, so forgive me.
Yeah.
So
Tanner, it's a braid.
Braid?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, one long braid.
But yeah, it's like down to her hip, right?
No, it's like down to her knees, man.
Yeah.
Is
it longer than that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at one point, in desperation, I guess she uses her hair braid as a whip and gashes the side of Shayna Baszler. Like, they zoom in, you see like this gash on Shayna Baszler's side. So
Guess it was like a hair clip or something, maybe. But
Yeah, I might have thought.
I mean, I was just going off the assumption that it was just pure hair that just
the power,
the power of hair,
the hair
just,
power.
just whipped right into Shayna Baszler.
No, I thought this was a good match. I've said this on the podcast before. I'm not the biggest fan of Shayna Baszler.
Yep.
Mostly just because of her like promo work and her mic work is just a little bit off to me personally. But that being said, her ring work obviously is very, very good. She's the women's champion for a reason. And Bianca Belair, I hadn't actually seen her before this match, and she came out and really stepped up on this one. I thought it was a really good match. I would give it probably a 3.5.
Yep. Very good match.
Shayna's mic work makes her feel like a goon, but her ring work, you know what I mean, more than makes up for it.
Yeah.
Super alpha.
I would agree with that for sure.
Definitely the alpha in the ring for sure. But yeah, no, it was a good match. I'll Steven's saying about 3.5.
I was gonna say, but again, that's more so because she reminds you of some of the female henchmen. You know what I mean? Like, she reminds you of the henchmen more than like Paige or
the head, head of for sure.
I mean, well, they're projecting this whole thing with like there's the 4 horsewomen of professional wrestling, which would be Charlotte, Becky, Sasha Banks, and Bayley.
Okay.
So there's those 4, and then there's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, and I forget the other 2.
Is Ruby Riott in there?
No. Trying to remember. Yeah, no, they're on NXT.
Sure. Yeah,
my apologies, guys. So yeah, but there's a 4 horsewomen of UFC, and Ronda's kind of the head.
Oh, okay.
And so they're I can definitely see them trying to prop up this like 4-on-4 horsewomen kind of feud. We got kind of allusions to that in the Royal Rumble. So that was it's definitely a good match for Shayna Baszler and a good match for Bianca Belair. The right person won, in my opinion. Here, Shayna Baszler holding on to the title still.
I agree.
On to the main event: Tommaso Ciampa, Aleister Black. Again, really, really solid match. 4.5 stars in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I gotta go closer to 4.5, maybe 5.
Really?
Just because of the spots, man.
Okay. I mean, there were some really good spots in this match. It was also very psychology heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
It drew out, but it was like good in a good way.
Ciampa was a bastard as usual. You know, just a mean guy, just beating down on Aleister Black and focusing really, really heavily on Aleister Black's knee for the entire match.
It was the knee he uses for the black mass kick.
The pace may keep it from being a 5, but I mean those spots. I mean that ringside DDT.
Oh yeah,
that was good.
Like, I'm just trying to hurt you. I'm not even trying to show anything off. I don't know how you practice that.
And
I don't know how you prepare for that.
Well, and Aleister Black's selling for the whole match was really good too, because he sold enough of it to the point where it was like, okay, well, can he hit the Black Mass now that his knee's all injured? The end of the match tells that. Tommaso Ciampa retains the title here in a very, very good match. They let them go for just shy of half an hour, about 26 minutes 30 seconds is what we're seeing here. So I thought this match was absolutely brilliant. Still about 4.5. The aftermath of which was also very, very interesting. As we know with NXT shows, when the little thing comes up in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen saying that they're about to sign off, that almost never means that they're about to sign off.
Right.
Very old school in that one.
So Ciampa's at the top of the ramp, hoisting up his title.
Did we get Gargano come out? Is that the one?
Yes.
So Gargano comes out right as
holding his new holding the new championship.
And he's Gargano's looking at Ciampa as if he's like, okay, well, we're about to throw down. Right. It looks almost like that. But he holds up his title and Ciampa holds up his, and it's kind of like this mutual kind of thing here.
Like, you were right.
Well, kind of. I mean,
Gargano's telling Ciampa, you were right.
Or at least there's like
I should have went after this belt.
Maybe, or I mean, it at least shows some kind of cohesion, or at least.
It was a huge moment.
It was
for me in particular. I kind of lost it.
Yeah, Stephen lost his mind when he saw that at the close of the show.
Yeah, heel DIY, man.
Well, yeah.
They haven't said it specifically, but everything is pointing towards it. And with what happened at the end of Takeover, it almost cements it for me.
Well, and we're just about to get to that, because this whole ending segment here, which you can also they aired it mostly for like Twitter and WWE.com, but after it actually went off air, it's noted that Velveteen Dream was actually near ringside with a couple of ladies. I believe. Yeah, they
lady on each arm.
Yeah, they showed him at ringside, and after the match, or after the show closes rather, Velveteen Dream is seen coming out, and he's kind of pointing at both Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, giving them some sarcastic claps and stuff.
Very interesting work there by Velveteen Dream, and you're kind of thought, okay, well, is he going to go after them? Like, who would he go after? What kind of belt is he kind of aiming for here? He's already had a great match with Ciampa. So what ended up happening is, the show goes off air. We got Velveteen on one side, Gargano and Black on the other side. And Gargano and Ciampa rather, and then Aleister Black starts hobbling up, still selling his leg,
selling the injury,
still selling that injury, and he's hobbling up to basically be part of this little skirmish here. And of course, from the back comes both Adam Cole and Ricochet.
Baby,
Adam Cole. Which one?
Adam Cole.
Oh, okay. Just make.
We could do Ricochet.
Ricochet,
baby.
Oh, see, it doesn't have the right. Adam Cole.
Baby.
There we go.
Yeah, see, it works.
It feels a lot better.
Yeah.
You've got the faces. You got three faces here. Aleister Black, Ricochet, and Velveteen Dream. And then you've got Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano on the other side. Just all kind of yelling at each other.
The three biggest faces and the three biggest heels.
Right. Yep. So they have to be pulled apart, and this results in the next match that we're going to talk about here, which was announced the very next night at the Royal Rumble pre-show.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels came out and announced it.
Halftime Heat, which was pretty brilliant. Again, we're jumping a little bit ahead here, but I mean, since it's NXT related, might as well.
Yeah.
This takes place during the Super Bowl halftime show, which if you actually watched that game or that halftime show, God bless you. That was awful.
No, Halftime Heat was the best part of Super Bowl weekend, unless you're a Patriots fan like me.
Yeah, I was about to say, didn't you like celebrate like winning a championship that night?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But as a football fan, it was really for football fans.
Oh, okay.
Because it wasn't much offense.
Yeah.
But Halftime Heat was the best thing that week if you weren't a Patriots fan.
Absolutely. Well, and I heard, the Maroon 5 performance was a little bit shaky as well.
Okay.
It was okay?
Yeah, it was okay.
All right. Well,
it wasn't better than Halftime Heat.
Yeah, Halftime Heat feels like it stole the show here.
Match was incredible.
It was a very, very good match. They kind of did have this. I know we touched on it earlier, but like this kind of like independent scene kind of feel to it. The match actually took place at the Performance Center, not at Full Sail University, but they took place at the Performance Center itself because it felt like WWE itself was hosting some kind of Super Bowl party. There was about 400 people. If you go through if you rewatch the match on WWE Network, and you can kind of pause when they're showing shots of the crowd, and you can kind of point out and see like some of the talent in the audience and stuff like that.
Gotcha. I did not notice that.
Yeah, Adam Cole gets legitimately booed, because I mean he's a heel. He's supposed to draw heat. He kind of got like a nice like surprised reaction that he's actually getting booed. The match itself was wonderful.
Just a great match.
Yeah, and I know I've spoken before on how I'm not a huge fan of or like tornado tag matches or tag matches where the ref isn't making sure that everyone is following the rules or anything like that. But this match was not a tornado match, but it definitely felt like a tornado match.
Yeah.
But that actually was not a bad thing because in this one there was no empty space. They did not allow for empty space. There was big moment after big moment after big moment.
It was patterned and paced very well. There was definitely a lot of moves. Adam Cole stands out again to me here. He did this move, the Panama Sunrise, which is he's basically jumping off of the middle turnbuckle and does a Canadian Destroyer, which is a move that I thought for the longest time that move was banned because of the sheer amount of athleticism both guys have to do a flipping right. It's a flipping pile driver. So it's like
that's all I think about when I hear that.
It's brilliant. It was such a good move, and like everybody did their job well. So props to those 6 guys: Aleister Black, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Velveteen Dream.
Now,
all of them.
Sorry, go ahead. Is it anything else?
Ciampa, Gargano, Cole, Velveteen Dream,
Black and Ricochet.
There you go.
And I'm kind of, we pulled up info, for all the matches, and I couldn't necessarily find the Wikipedia describing the match, but what I found was a review of it, and one of their criticisms was actually one of my favorite things about the match. It didn't really have necessarily a big in-ring storytelling portion. It was just a bunch of spots.
Yeah.
But I think, again, we talked about this, off script, off the record, but I think, it's something to bring up. NXT understands that right now the work is the most important thing if you look at the entire landscape, the entire scene. And I thought it was cool that they brought that out,
Absolutely. And with it being a halftime show, it does have to fit in that time frame. I think with the 6 guys that they had in the ring and the talent that was in there, they didn't need to have a story for it to be sold really, really well. Exactly. And with them needing to fit into that time frame, a story wouldn't fit in that time frame. So I can definitely see where they're coming from with that. But at the same time, I don't think a story would have added too much necessarily to this match just because it was already very good.
Well, and I think the story is these are your top 6 guys in NXT having a 6-man tag match, and my response to that
at a pay-per-view that hasn't been around for 20 years. Yeah, I mean that's story enough right there.
It was a show that you can catch on the WWE Network, and I guess my main response to that criticism directly would be, I don't think, and this is just I think me speaking on maybe perhaps both of you, but I know for me as a hardcore wrestling fan, I feel like hardcore fans don't necessarily get catered to enough per se on WWE's main product.
Yeah.
So if you're giving me some kind of special treat for just happening to be maybe bored of the Super Bowl and I want to flip over to watch Halftime Heat instead, that's really cool to be able to see that and know who these guys are as a part of that more hardcore following.
Yeah.
That follows wrestling.
Yeah,
So,
there didn't need to be a lot of frill. There didn't need to be like, okay, this is Ricochet, this is Adam Cole. We already know who those guys are, and we already know this match is going to be great.
yeah, the 6 minutes of the match sold the match enough itself.
Yeah.
For me.
One thing I wanted to bring up, something that just popped in my head, see what you guys think. Do we not get this ring work cohesion on the main level, on the main roster, because guys just don't have that familiarity?
I don't think it's necessarily because they don't have the familiarity. I think, like, you take some guy like Seth Rollins, for example, who came out of that same scene as Ciampa, Gargano, Aleister Black, Ricochet.
Well, I'm saying working with each other, like on the main roster.
Oh.
Like, how many guys can you think
you.
of? Like, I mean, outside of maybe Miz and Shane, like, how many guys can you think of that really have that history?
I mean, there's definitely something to be said about chemistry in the ring and everything like that. But Seth Rollins is a fantastic wrestler, and he can almost sell anybody as long as they're on a similar level to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with this NXT match, everyone is already on the same level, and I think chemistry might play a part in that for sure. But I think it's really just the talent of these guys that shines through more so than just the chemistry of them.
I mean, I would actually argue the opposite. I would say that I would have expected a lot more out of the main roster guys because they're supposed to be working with each other so much. Like
That's
when they,
true. That's
like,
what I'm thinking.
like when
it's like this conundrum.
when they go on these house shows, like you'll see. I think when it was like Dean, they'll book Dean and Seth Rollins to have matches on house shows for a month leading up through the pay-per-view where they're going to have another match. You know, like, so we had that story. We continuously see this with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan having matches on house shows. So these talents should be more familiar with each other, but I think it might have to do with maybe like an overexposure to like seeing these guys work all the time together.
Yeah.
To where it's like, okay, well, now it's not special anymore.
Okay.
Right? Like, I feel that way about the Daniel Bryan and AJ series of matches because when the first time that they did it, at TLC,
It was special.
it was really good and it was really special. Now that they're doing like, okay, well, they had another match for Royal Rumble and now they're going to be inside Elimination Chamber together. And now they might have another match at Fastlane with Samoa Joe involved. You know, I mean, I think that's something that they might build towards, is having Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Daniel Bryan either at Fastlane or at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But that's still putting AJ and Daniel Bryan together, regardless of it being a good match, which it's going to be. It's just, I'm super familiar with all this at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I agree.
I mean, I would be expecting more from them because they're always working together, but there's just something about how NXT is booked and put together and how we as the viewers see the show that just makes it come off feeling a lot more special whenever a takeover happens.
I mean, that honestly, that might just be because of the quantity of takeovers that we get. We don't get one for every single pay-per-view. You know, and so seeing it every other pay-per-view or something like that makes it a little bit more special.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and considering that NXT would have, maybe 8 to 12 show tapings, not maybe show tapings, but 8 to 12 episodes come out in a span between one show, one takeover to the next takeover, helps cultivate you to have a good enough amount of storylines and make sure that talent.
That's a lot of story that you can fit in there.
A lot of story, and it still makes those feel special because you've waited 2 months to see Ricochet versus Gargano,
Right.
Or you've waited 2 months or more to see Gargano and Ciampa from last year, and maybe it'll happen again. Who knows? But it's just the way that things work just makes it feel a little bit more special about the NXT. And we'll talk about that here in a second because I actually want to ask the both of y'all a question. But let's talk about the Royal Rumble real quick because that's also highly important, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Overall thoughts on the show, gentlemen?
I thought it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was decent. Good at parts, definitely not good at some parts. There were some very good matches. Like I don't know about how y'all feel about it, but I personally really liked the the tag match between Miz and Shane McMahon and the Bar. I actually really enjoyed that match. I thought
wow, both of y'all go with match of the night, Miz and Shane versus the Bar. Oh man, I would have never seen that coming.
It's a self-contained story.
Yeah,
it's fun.
I love Shane McMahon personally, so
and they give the dad the belt.
That is true. The spot with Miz's dad and Miz and Shane was pretty cool.
It was a good moment.
Shane might be older than Miz's dad.
It might be.
He might be.
Yeah.
What's the background on that anyway? That literally is Miz's dad's favorite wrestler?
Yeah, I
don't know about
he's
that.
The favorite wrestler, but I mean like that's the story is like
hilarious.
Miz, you need to team with Shane, and then they go and dominate the world apparently.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Well, so
but I mean, I guess it was a lot of these, like you said, it's too much familiarity with all this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm ready for Asuka to have a new appointment. I mean, not a new opponent. And Becky Lynch versus Rousey was the inevitable thing. So there's no way Asuka was going to lose that match. And even if Becky had won, you kill a storyline everyone knows coming and everyone wants.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that for me in a lot of work. So
I mean, I liked about half the show, and the other half of the show was like, okay, cool, like whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit critical of that, but I felt like this was a 5.5 hour show.
yeah.
It was long.
Not even counting pre-show.
Yeah.
It was 5.5 hours. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, okay, this is still going on. All right, cool. Like, and so by the time the men's Royal Rumble ends, you're like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
It's way past my bedtime at this point.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just quickly run through the pre-show. Oh my gosh. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable defeated Scott Dawson and Rezar. Yes, that's right. One member of the Revival and one member of the Authors of Pain tagged together in a match where the stipulation was, had Dawson and Rezar won, both the Revival and the Authors of Pain would receive a Raw Tag Team Championship match. Newsflash, they did not win. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable retained the titles. I don't even think it was a tag team title match. I think it's just a tag team match, right?
This right here, we're going to touch on it later, but this right here, tag team, keep an eye on that, is why if WWE quote unquote falls or loses, its perch, tag team will be why. If I'm Bobby Roode, if I'm Chad Gable, if I'm any of these dudes, I'm like, man, AEW, what are you guys up to?
Yeah.
Because it's just...
Yeah, I actually didn't even see this match. I missed it, unfortunately.
You didn't miss.
From everything I've heard from y'all and online, I didn't miss much.
This is a weakness, a big glaring weakness.
Yeah, it just felt
for WWE right now.
Look, I guess props to the WWE because that's an interesting kind of gimmick for a match where it's like, hey, we're gonna let's put two guys together and see if they can work together and get themselves a tag match for their teams. That's interesting. It's not.
Is just bad when you got two tag.
It's too complicated. Let's bring one guy from two tag teams, and if they win, both teams get what? It doesn't even make sense.
I think it's interesting, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this was poorly executed.
Yeah.
It feels like you're hey, let's just throw out an extra match here. Need to fill some time.
Yeah. I just think it's awkward when you got two tag team legends on the indie circuit starting a business.
Yeah.
to compete with you when if that is going to be weak.
That's what you're putting out there?
That's immediately what people are going to see. So
we'll talk about the Bucks that are young here early.
The Bucks.
That's how...
the Bucks that are young.
That's how broken Matt Hardy would refer to him, I guess.
Gotcha.
The Bucks that are young.
Yeah, I like that.
Next on the card here, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev.
I know J-Raw was pretty upset about this one.
Yeah. Still am.
So,
I am too.
So Shinsuke... you should be happy because Shinsuke wins the title here.
On the pre-show.
On the pre-show.
On the pre-show.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all
Give him a beer.
yeah, exactly. It was thrilling. No, I mean it was fine. But
okay.
again, it's like, why do you have this on the pre-show? Like, yeah. But I mean they need time to fill, and I mean I feel bad for Shinsuke and Rusev.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both men should have had a more prominent spot.
Yeah.
Just in general, but this was, for what it was good. Shinsuke then loses the title just the very next SmackDown, I believe, to R-Truth.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So that was a short-lived reign for the King of Knock America.
Cool.
Oh.
So he was on the pre-show, and then it didn't even matter because he lost the title.
Lost the title.
Cool.
Buddy Murphy retains the title against Akira Tozawa, Hideo Itami, and Kalisto in a
This was actually a pretty cool match.
It was a very
Cruiserweights are fun.
Yeah, cruiserweights are fun to watch, and this is the first time I've really seen a full match with Buddy Murphy. Incredibly talented guy, and that Murphy's Law finisher that he does, the way he pulls it off, that's a crazy finisher.
But here's what's so frustrating about the cruiserweight division to me. Is, again, going back to NXT, you got 5 cruiserweight sized guys.
Yeah.
And they're all in the mix for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, have the cruiserweight division, but, pull guys into the main events.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what
they could easily, Buddy Murphy, these guys could easily be split into competing for the United States Championship.
Or even be in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Buddy Murphy.
Mustafa Ali getting in, that's a good.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is
Right.
Mustafa Ali, hitting the main roster was a very good move, and I think Buddy Murphy would probably end up being the next guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I'm just saying,
No, I completely
continue to show that awareness.
I completely agree. I think that this match is more noteworthy for something else besides what was actually done in the ring. This is actually going to mark the last match for Hideo Itami, who has now left the company. He actually was granted his release. This is the man formerly known as Kenta. He wrestled for a long time in Pro Wrestling Noah and in Ring of Honor. He had a very good run in NXT for the most part for the beginning, but it was riddled with injuries where he was just not there. He was also kind of overshadowed by the debut of Finn Balor to an extent. So we're wishing Kenta all the best here. I would actually, if I had my given choice, I mean, he may go back to Japan for all I know, but if given the choice, I think he could definitely earn a spot in AEW. I think that would be a good place for him to land as well if given an opportunity. He might want to go back to Japan, but hey man, if AEW's calling, I definitely
got that money too.
Yeah, I would recommend to pick up the phone if you're interested in sticking around.
Yeah.
I think that they would probably give him the freedom and booking that he would want to have.
Yeah.
Because he's another guy who could probably have a really good match with Kenny Omega or with Cody or with pretty much anybody who you could put on that roster in AEW. But I digress. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. To kick off the Royal Rumble, we had Asuka beat Becky Lynch via submission in a match that ran about 17 minutes, a little bit over 17 minutes. I liked the match. It was a good opener.
Pretty good.
The crowd was hot for Becky.
I thought it was a good idea for it to be the opener also.
Right. Well, and it kind of sorted out here what was going to happen, what the rest of the show would transpire to be, at least for the first half of the show. Yeah. Becky Lynch, we kind of thought was going to lose the match to Asuka, though it wasn't very clear because you still want to have somewhere, somehow, some way for Becky to find her way through to a WrestleMania main event. It is what it is. I actually like the match quite a bit.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was good.
To you guys' favorite match of the evening, The Miz and Shane McMahon.
Yes.
Defeat the Bar, 13 minutes. Miz's dad was at ringside.
Yes.
He looked like he was having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Shane McMahon wins the match with... for a man who's in his 50s to be able to pull off a shooting star press like he did was... Yeah. That was probably one of the best shooting star press I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like I said at the top of the show, I'm Big fan of Shane McMahon. I always have been since I watched wrestling. I don't know what it is about him. I just really like him and his very.
The man has no fear.
Very.
Body on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely a lead by example kind of guy.
And you can tell, parts of the match where he's like, man, I really shouldn't be doing this, but then he does it anyway, and that's why I like Shane. But yeah, I think the match was great.
Yeah, it was a fun match. Definitely decent. New tag team champions, so it'll be interesting to see where we kind of go from here.
Yes.
We did not get any hints of a feud like maybe what our guest Eddie was pointing out to. But we'll have to call Eddie.
Hey, it's still early. It's
still very early. That's exactly right.
Yeah, we gotta get his take.
We're gonna have to get his take. So Eddie, if you're listening, give us a call. We want to hear back from you. Or if any of you guys listening want to ever give us a call or ever want to write us at headlocktalk@gmail.com.
Yes,
we definitely want to have a mailbag section, so we want to hear from you guys. Send us your questions at headlocktalk@gmail.com. Or if you want to give us a call and share your thoughts with us, we definitely want to hear from you. So
I was gonna say too, I guess what made this match so good was just that. In Royal Rumble, I think what made it okay was everything was pretty predictable.
Yeah.
There wasn't much intrigue. And so in a time like that, the funnest match and story is probably going to be the highlight of the night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, I'll give a differing opinion here in just a moment. But the Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks match, Sasha Banks got a pretty good match out of Ronda Rousey here for the Raw Women's title. This is about as good as what I thought a Sasha Banks and Ronda Rousey match was. Sasha basically eliminates herself. Like she somebody has to check up on Sasha because she's just constantly about self-harm here.
Yeah.
Taking these massive bumps and it was a very, very good match and Sasha. I definitely approve of her willingness to work with Ronda. There was also a little bit of a teaser, like we were mentioning earlier. Sasha throws up the 4 horsewomen sign at Ronda as they part from the ring. I still recommend watching it. I find what I was going to say earlier was I find that the first half of this pay-per-view I liked a lot better than the second half of the pay-per-view for differing reasons.
Oh, give me 1 second too. Wanted to mention as well, coming off the Miz and Shane McMahon match, Eddie sent in a stat correction.
Oh, okay. So
he made a mistake.
You're talking to Eddie.
Miz didn't win the 2011 Royal Rumble. He interfered and got Cena eliminated at that year's WrestleMania. So it wasn't the Royal Rumble. They set up the clash at that year's WrestleMania.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that sounded better when he said that.
Correction.
When he said that the Miz won the Rumble, I had to go back to my Rolodex and think as to whether or not he won it or not. But yeah, no, that would be correct. Because that was the one where The Rock cost John Cena the match, and then that led to The Rock and John Cena at 28.
Yeah.
And then again at 29.
Yeah. So it was an interference.
Yeah. What was once in a lifetime became twice in a lifetime.
So let it be known.
Yeah, let it be known. There's the story. The first half of the show here, going up through and kind of going towards the women's Royal Rumble match here. A lot of the story here, and it was a little bit slow in plotting at points, but a lot of that relied on Charlotte Flair, putting in a lot of the work while thinking work into the match too. There were some definitely a lot of notable talents here in this match.
One of the breakout performances I just want to say was Lacey Evans from NXT. She lasted until I believe 17 or 18 after being the first entrant. So fantastic job from her.
Props to Lacey Evans.
I like her style.
I do too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we kind of had
Ember Moon also. She was in there for probably like 16 or 17 entrants as well.
A good portion too. And then kind of around the time I think Lana was entrant 28, and that's when
Either 27 or 28, yeah.
So maybe we should kind of back up here. In the Rusev Nakamura match, there is a spot where Rusev actually ran into Lana and injured Lana.
Right.
And Lana could not get herself down the ringway.
Yeah, she couldn't walk.
To get into the match. So that opened up a spot as we kind of go through the match where Becky Lynch, of course, the man.
Yep.
Becky Lynch came out. The man. Becky Lynch came out and she was talking with David Finlay. David Finlay's a fellow countryman, Irishman.
Yeah.
He was thinking back and forth. He didn't know if he should let Becky into the match, and then ultimately he relented and let Becky into the match.
Yep.
So spots are there with Becky and Nia. Nia Jax gets eliminated, takes it out on Becky, destroys. Stephen raises his hands that Nia Jax got eliminated. Nia Jax obviously destroys Becky's knee, and it comes down to just Becky and Charlotte, and Becky ultimately wins the Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Charlotte missed with the move, didn't she, and get sent over?
I think that was part of it, yeah. I think that was part of it. So, and I think it was always going to come down to Becky and Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably the better way to go. They are playing up now this injury angle, quote unquote, with Becky Lynch. She needs to get her knee checked out, and she attacks Stephanie McMahon because Stephanie wants to suspend her for not getting her knee checked out. I mean,
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
WWE, for all of their credit and all the money that they make in the world, it's very... They play out this angle very often where it's like, oh, okay, we're going to interject the McMahon family into here and make it kind of like an underdog story against the system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is flashes of Daniel Bryan written all over it.
Which that storyline can work.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do it for every big person
right,
on the roster,
yeah,
then...
it just seems to happen WrestleMania, you know, every other WrestleMania or so, is that there's a McMahon storyline of somebody having a fight against the system. Last year it was Kurt Angle, and then he recruited Ronda Rousey to have the tag match with Hunter and Steph.
Yeah.
You know, you had, like I said, the Daniel Bryan storyline with him versus the Authority. So it was kind of one of those things that's now it's kind of turned into, but we're going to talk about the Royal Rumble matches aftermath here in just a moment. To kind of close out the show, the last three matches, Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, went for about 24 minutes, which is shocking. The longest match on here that was not a Royal Rumble match. I did not like this one nearly as much as I liked the TLC matches, or the TLC match that they had. It was still a good enough match.
It was decent.
I think it was straightforward,
It was pretty straightforward. And then, of course, the Brock Lesnar and Finn Balor match. Steven did not like this. Go ahead, guys.
Brock Lesnar, but I am starting to side with Steven on
Thank
this.
you.
Oh.
Why does a part-timer have the belt this long?
Yeah.
It's not like there isn't a number of people that can, full-timers, that can take this spot, and starting with Finn Balor.
Yeah.
This could have easily rolled into a Finn Balor, Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Now we're going to get Rollins, Lesnar, and I swear on everything, if Lesnar walks out of there with the belt...
I mean, if Lesnar walks out...
meaning of life at that point.
If Lesnar walks out of WrestleMania with the Universal title, we can just assume that title's dead at that point, right?
Yes.
Because
the meaning of everything, and maybe we're moving to SmackDown being the best, most important belt,
right?
And maybe I've missed.
Well, I mean,
something.
at this point, I would argue that the WWE Championship is the most important belt in WWE right now, just because with the Universal title, you get a title defense every 3 months or so, and then.
Do we think this was a snafu? Do we think this was?
Look, I mean,
real quick, do we think this was a mismanagement with the writing, that the belt ended up in the wrong spot? That it ended up in SmackDown? They're just like, let's go with this.
I'm gonna throw this out at you, okay? So the Daniel Bryan.
I'm lost.
Okay, so the Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles match went for almost 25 minutes and ended because of Eric Rowan interfered.
Right.
Attacked AJ,
Which I thought was a very cool ending.
Very cool and very interesting.
Yeah.
Eric Rowan looks like a vegan country nut. So hey, let's go with it. I love it.
Hot take here from J.
Hot
Rock.
takes.
Hot take here from J. Rock calling Eric Rowan a country hick.
Country hick, vegan, nut job.
J. Raw's address is. No, but in seriousness here, the following match, which was Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor, was less than 10 minutes. It was only 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, this is just me, since you're going to have Eric Rowan interfere in the match anyway, you maybe should have given Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles less than 10 minutes or less with the Eric Rowan interference, because that would have at least kept that match a little bit more fresh. We have just seen it after TLC. We're going to see it again at Elimination Chamber. We're probably going to see some form of it at Fastlane and probably a whole nother form of it at WrestleMania. This seems to be destined for AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan to keep clashing against each other.
Right.
So cut that match short and make Brock versus Finn Balor 20 to 25 minutes. I would have actually liked that a lot more, because I think there would have been a lot more space for...
If Balor wins, I would have liked that more.
See, if you give that match...
5 F5s and then a arm...
See, if you gave that match 20 minutes, you would end up with about 96 suplexes instead of 32.
And that's
a good fact.
That's fair.
That's a good point.
That's fair. I'm just saying, if you gave Brock and Finn the same amount of time that you at least gave Brock when he faced AJ, and Bryan when he faced Brock as well, the match between Finn and Brock would have been a lot better. I feel like
the only.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
I guess what I'm saying is, when I boil it down, the black and white of it is this: I feel like the women's title matches were far better and well built, and actually came across better than both of the men's title matches.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
I agree.
Because if you take a look at the Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match, we've seen that before. We've seen it multiple times. And then Brock Lesnar, Finn Balor. I don't like Brock Lesnar.
We've seen that result before.
Right.
I think that we would have had a chance to at least see a lot more of what Finn could do. Right. And
see, that's what was my problem with this match, though, was it was extremely one-sided for me.
Right.
In the sense that you have Finn Balor over here, an insanely talented wrestler who's putting up big spots and is doing very, very well in the ring. And then you have Brock Lesnar doing suplexes. Yeah. And that's essentially what the match was. And so if you're giving that more time, then okay, cool. I can see more stuff that Finn Balor's doing that's cool. Mm-hmm. But I would much rather see Finn Balor versus anyone else.
And let me say this: I don't want to see Brock Lesnar versus anyone.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, I agree.
I don't know if I can make that any clearer.
I agree.
I don't know if that was clearer.
Oh, okay. So.
And Vince, you did it to me. I didn't want to agree with Stephen on this.
Listener, if you've kept score...
Vince, you've done this to me.
If you guys have kept score at home, it has now basically shifted sides where J-Raw and Stephen are now together in thought, and I'm on my own here. So, we're seeing a new dynamic here on the show, it seems.
It's just because Lesnar's part-time. And
I think it shows personally.
It shows like there's no build up, there's no story that it's the same story. Yeah. And he's part-time. So there's no other way to develop anything other than multiple suplexes and then what?
He's a beast. Yeah, okay, we get it.
And we got a little twist with the submission that reminds you of when he kayfabe broke Triple H's arm. But it's like,
no, I get it.
Why are we here?
No,
what are we doing?
I get it. I get it completely. I felt as though, and again, this is just me.
Yeah.
We would have all been a lot less confused and a lot more happy with it if the roles were reversed. If they gave the Brock Lesnar Finn match more time and the AJ Daniel Bryan less time.
And Finn won.
Well,
Finn won.
No, I can see what you're saying though. Just because the Daniel Bryan match was too long. and the Brock Lesnar match was too short. So
I agree.
if you were to
with that.
balance them out in time, it would have been a little bit better. That being said, though, I still wouldn't be a fan of the match.
I know.
But do you feel
even
that though? Do you feel that the Daniel Bryan AJ Styles one was held back to like a general but somewhat good, but just match because they know there's going to be more story here? Because this thing is, like you said,
it was.
I don't even know if it started yet. Like that's how much time this match and story is gonna get.
It was a lot longer than maybe what I would have liked to have seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say it wasn't a good match. It was still a very well done match between AJ and Daniel Bryan. But again, if you're gonna have Eric Rowan come out and do interference anyway, make it a shorter match.
Yeah.
And then give Finn and Brock more time, because you can always play up the story a lot more as you just kind of go through WrestleMania season.
No, I agree with you, but what I'm saying is this match, this story is going to have so many spots by the time it's done. I'm just saying I felt they were holding back. Even though it was long, I felt they were holding back because there's so much more to be told. I mean, I know the Elimination Chamber spots alone are going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think Elimination Chamber, that's probably going to be match of the night.
Well, and
calling it now. I mean, it's going to be...
It's good to kind of keep things... It's going to be good to kind of keep things a little bit more fresh, too, because throwing 4 other competitors in the same match in a completely different environment is going to definitely do wonders to help the WWE title scene kind of going forward here. Now, what I would be curious of is how we're going to play out here. Obviously, we've got the Seth Rollins versus Seth Rollins versus the World here in a 30-man Royal Rumble match. I believe he was entrant number 10.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. I want to say it was entrant number 10. We had a few surprises. Jeff Jarrett was in the match early
that was
on.
Fun.
Him and Elias had a little one-on-one at the beginning of the match.
I thought it was a cool promo. A little too long, though.
Yeah.
It started to drag a little bit. It's like, all right, come on, let's get on with it.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he,
Isn't Jeff Jarrett, isn't one of the controversies behind him is he's a dick when it comes to negotiations?
Yeah.
The whole TNA thing. And,
there was a,
Because I could just see him negotiating like, oh, you bring me back, I need lines, I need that. You know what I mean?
So there was a, when he left WWE and went to WCW, there was a lot of hard feelings there, and there's a ton of people who've told different stories about what exactly happened between him and Vince and Jeff Jarrett leaving the company.
Yeah.
But I mean, he got elected into their Hall of Fame last WrestleMania, so I mean, I don't think that there's any residual hard feelings still left there.
I know time healed the wounds, but I'm just saying I could see him pulling a move like that. If I'm gonna come back, I need spots.
I mean, maybe. I mean, him and Road Dogg are really good friends, and Road Dogg writes Raw, so I mean that's that. Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I mean, because you're gonna get guys. That's the beauty of Royal Rumble is you get these guys that you're not only gonna see once in a while.
Yep.
And they come out, give them a few seconds. It just went a little long for me from the awkwardness of it. You know what I mean? I was about ready for someone to get hit with a guitar.
Yeah, of course. Well, you finally got what you wanted.
I didn't care who at that point. I'm just like, somebody hit somebody, please.
Well, and the NXT, the guys come up from NXT were pretty cool too. It's getting to see them. We got to see Gargano. We got to see Aleister Black.
I thought that was awesome.
Mustafa
Ali was in there.
For me.
Andrade, Cien Almas was in there. A lot of really cool guys. Dolph Ziggler came back, even though he's supposed to be on a hiatus. I think he's still on a hiatus. He just came back for the Royal Rumble. So, I mean, ultimately it came down to Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman, and Seth Rollins came away with the victory. One thing worth noting here, and we'll make it very quick because we've still got a lot of show to get into here, you guys.
I don't know if this could be quick if you're going where I think you're going.
Oh, it's going to have to go there.
It's like, Ding, ding, ding.
So, J-Raw, our local Nia Jax sympathizer, most likely probably enjoyed this next spot where
Yes, I did.
Our Truth comes out at number 30.
Okay, I didn't enjoy that. That wasn't right. Okay.
Okay, hold on. All right, time out. So, Nia Jax comes out and basically knocks out our Truth. So you're not cool with that.
I'm not cool with him getting hurt from it.
Yeah, I'm not cool with that either.
I'm not cool with that. I mean, yeah. Was it when she threw him into the sign?
I mean, I think it was all of it.
It was. That was definitely part of it, for sure.
I'm cool with the spot. I'm not cool with,
if he was
adding
actually
another to the list.
Yeah, if he was actually hurt or not. I mean, that's my theory as to maybe why he won the U.S. title from Nakamura. It's like, hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that has to be the reason. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Perhaps so. Hey,
give him some promo time.
Don't talk about how you got hurt by Nia Jax, and we'll give you this U.S. title run here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let's do it.
No, yeah. But yeah, no, I mean,
here's what I liked about it.
Okay.
Right? Here's what I liked about it.
Go ahead.
Before you guys go.
You're gonna talk about her getting beat up, aren't you?
No, I just like
because that's what I liked about it.
I like the fact that she came out, she showed some physicality, and she is clearly playing on the fact that everyone hates her. So I like that. I like that she's in on the joke. Now, is she like Ryback, where she doesn't know her own strength and she's effing people up? Yes, but I'm just saying, a lot of the women can hold their own in the ring and with the mic. I'm just saying Nia Jax is up there. You gotta give it to her. You gotta accept the fact that one of the reasons you hate her is because she's so good at what she does.
I don't have to accept anything, J-Raw. I don't have to accept anything.
All I'm saying is, look, she got the crowd cheering for a bunch of dudes to beat up a woman. That says enough about her mic, promo work, ring work. That says everything about her ability to push a character right there.
But most of the hate for her character is that she keeps hurting people. So I can't give it to her if a lot of the heat that she's drawing is real heat from her not doing her job properly. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give her a pass on that.
There's people on that side of the fence too. I just, you know what I mean?
That was thrilling. Oh man. I mean, both.
We need a knockout series on how we feel about Nia Jax.
I mean,
the pros and the cons. We need a knockout.
They're all
session.
cons.
Look, I mean, I don't think that people have the time to live stream us for a week if we're gonna have that kind of episode, because it's gonna have to take that long.
Yeah, it would be bad.
No, but I mean, like, no.
Awesome.
In all seriousness, yeah. I mean, look, I can see both of y'all's points for sure. The fact that Nia Jax was the number 30th entrant into the Royal Rumble, and then she took what, an RKO, a 619, and what else did she take? She took
quite a few.
She took a super kick.
Yeah,
she took a super kick. Ziggler got her with a super kick. The RKO was my favorite spot. You know what I mean?
That was my favorite too.
I mean, also too, the men sold her kicking their tail too. So I mean, I thought it was a good. It was a good little segment, you know what I mean?
Apparently, we're building towards a Nia Jax Dean Ambrose feud. I was
to that I say please no.
I was looking over some Twitter feed comments, and I think somebody brilliantly posted that Vince must want Dean Ambrose to get injured on the way out.
That's the comment of the year.
Yeah,
we just started the year. That's the comment of the year.
So I mean, take that for what you will. Back to the Rumble itself. It came down to the two guys who I think probably it should have ended down to, and it was probably Hunter's guy to win, who would have been Seth, and Vince's guy to win, who would have been Braun.
Yeah.
And I think the right guy won here. The better story is going to be Seth versus Brock.
And I gotta say, it's refreshing. I feel like we haven't had a Rumble in a while where, you know, the last 4 or 5 guys left, you're thinking, all right, who's going to get it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We haven't really had a Rumble like that in a while. Typically, by the last 4 to 5, you're like, oh.
Yeah. And I thought that the last two, being Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman, was really cool also.
That's really good, right?
Because with Braun Strowman, he was supposed to face
Brock
Lesnar, and he ended up losing that title, and now they're going to be that title shot, and now they're going to be pushing for a Seth Rollins Brock Lesnar feud, and I think it's cool to have the last 2 guys in your Rumble be the guy who almost got it, and then the guy who is eventually going to get it.
Exactly. And you don't know which way it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be it'll be very, very interesting going forward, and I do want to talk about this here for just a moment here, you guys. Obviously, the aftermath of this is going to be most likely Seth versus Brock.
Yeah.
And then Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. There was a great promo spot between Becky and Ronda on Raw the night after. The crowd really popped huge for Becky Lynch. And Ronda went from cutting probably one of the worst promos I've ever seen prior to her match with Bayley to one of the best promos I've ever seen her cut.
I would say the
after the match with Bayley.
Yeah, the promo after the match with Bayley is probably the best promo I've seen Ronda cut.
Yeah,
so far.
My only issue with it is it was great what she cut finally, and she got that stupid look off her face.
She has some intensity about her.
Finally, but I don't like when the crowd is done with you and they don't give you a chance.
Yeah,
like I think that's unprofessional, you know, and I can't expect a bunch of, you know, drunk people and, you know, their kids to be professional. Rowdy, you know, wrestling crowds. I can't expect them to be professional, but there should be some kind of, you know, at least silence to let her work.
Yeah, let her be heard.
Are you talking about the first promo or are you talking about the second promo?
The second, I guess, because after the first, they were so fed up and just all the dumbness, which I agree with. They booed her through her entire
promo
speech.
Yeah.
When if they'd have shut up, then sorry, wrestling fans.
Yeah,
I'm a wrestling fan too. But if you guys would have been quiet, then you probably would have liked.
They would have been impressed. Yeah,
they would have been impressed.
I disagree to the extent to where I believe that Becky being so over and so loved by the crowd, and Ronda being this kind of protected champion, somewhat, basically made it out to be. It's a true heat drawing moment. Like the crowd was legitimately out of favor with what Ronda was doing and had to say, and it created just this really awesome feeling in this promo, which I really, really enjoyed.
I definitely get where you're coming from with that, especially with like what the crowd reaction means and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I do also agree with you, J-Raw. I mean, give the girl a chance.
Yeah.
She just cut the best promo that she's ever cut.
True.
And y'all weren't giving her the time of day.
But I think that that's part of what makes it the best promo that she cut. Is the fact that she persevered, she pushed through it, and she had so much intensity for it, and Becky had brought that out of her too.
Yeah.
That I just really, really liked how that all came.
I thought it was good.
I can see that.
I like the whole talking with the mic down.
Yeah.
How if you catch it, Becky was like, you hear them, like she was really goading her into, it was like make or break time almost.
So
you know what I mean?
So I do have a quick question for you guys as kind of a side spot here. We have Brock and Seth for probably what's going to be the Universal title. It's pretty much undoubtedly going to be that.
Yeah.
And then we've got Becky and Ronda, and perhaps Charlotte might also find her way into this match as well. I think the likelihood of that is very much on, especially according to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez on the Wrestling Observer. We're most likely going to see Charlotte added to this match. But what does that mean for one Mr. Daniel Bryan? Who? I'll kind of go around here. The three of us here. Who do we think might end up having their title a title match with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania?
I don't see any reason to not go with AJ Styles and maybe toss someone else in. I don't see a reason to not go with that. I think this Royal Rumble, they saved some for later. Even though the match was long, they saved some for later. And, I don't see any reason to deter from that. Especially with WrestleMania being a culmination to that story.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I agree with J-Ro on that. I definitely kind of agree with you also, where I would want someone else other than AJ to be in this feud or in this title run.
Someone else.
But at the same time, with how the match ended at Royal Rumble with what's his name again? His Daniel Bryan's goon.
Eric Rowan.
Yeah, with him coming out, I think that's only going to keep this feud going on longer.
Real quick, I was going to say, how about this? How about Mustafa Ali comes out of the Elimination Chamber feeling cheated. We get a triple threat: Bryan, Styles, Ali.
Oh, that would be good.
It could be.
I'd be definitely down for that.
He comes out feeling like, man, I was robbed, and I want my actual shot. Like Rowan takes him out, or you know what I mean, or somebody just takes him out when Bryan comes back and wins.
Yeah, see, I was thinking maybe something with Rowan being part of Daniel Bryan's posse or whatever. Possibly have AJ Styles team up with somebody, or have someone in AJ Styles' corner, so that Daniel Bryan and AJ can have a fair match with their other guys trying to interfere, but then they're keeping them away from the ring and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool way to go too.
Right. I mean, I can definitely see that. I think, you can play it a couple different ways. I think you could potentially do Daniel Bryan, AJ, and Joe. I think Samoa Joe and Daniel Bryan and AJ would be a clinic. I think that would be a very good match.
That would be a great match.
I think that you could also do Daniel Bryan versus Mustafa Ali. Again, kind of going back to what I said last episode. How you could still play up the story where Mustafa Ali has a pinfall victory over Daniel Bryan.
Nice.
He could flip the script here as far as I'm the underdog now going against you, and you have Eric Rowan, and you have all these guys. Maybe they bring Harper back in, and Harper's part of this green friendly faction with Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan.
Yeah.
You could play that up. I think that you could also, and this probably might be what I would like to see most, Daniel Bryan versus John Cena for the title at WrestleMania.
It's not bad, but isn't Cena hurt?
I mean,
supposedly
he's kayfabe hurt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why they pulled him from the match. But I think that you could still. I mean, I think that if you played this,
got hurt.
yeah, if you,
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of John Cena hurting himself at the gym for real is like,
Oh yeah.
I would say that's extremely unlikely.
It's very low.
Yeah.
The man takes very good care of himself.
Yeah.
But I think that you could really do a good story between John Cena looking for his 17th title at WrestleMania. I think that would be pretty decent.
Well, I mean, John Cena is like one of my favorite wrestlers, so I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Right. Well, and John Cena and Daniel Bryan had a really good match at SummerSlam a few years back.
Yeah.
So I definitely would be down for that. To kind of get away from this all the WWE stuff, I think we've caught up enough.
I think so. Yeah.
I agree.
We've got some really big news to talk about, especially in regards to AEW. They had a pool party / press conference in Las Vegas earlier this week, and of course, the biggest announcement of all was none other than the signing of a new vice president, the cleaner Kenny Omega, has now joined AEW. Like I said, he will also be an executive vice president alongside the Young Bucks.
I am all for this.
And Cody. Yeah.
100%.
So my question here is, do you think that Kenny made the right choice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, yes. I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
Specifically because if y'all read further into, what the actual agreement he has with AEW is that he still can wrestle for New Japan in certain aspects, certain shows, and things like that. And that for me is a very, very, very big win for Kenny Omega as a wrestler and for his career, specifically because you still get huge coverage in Japan that you've been getting for years.
Yep.
But now you also have this huge coverage that you can get in America with this new huge wrestling promotion. So
Right.
as a business standpoint, in terms of Kenny Omega selling Kenny Omega, this was absolutely the number one choice he should have done.
Well, and now he's selling AEW, so you've got eyes,
absolutely.
like you said, eyes coming from Japan and eyes in America that can now see a new product, and I think that's great for all of us as fans.
Absolutely.
During Kenny Omega's unveiling, though, he was interrupted by the one and only Chris Jericho.
Yes.
So we're most likely going to see Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega main eventing at Double or Nothing, which is going to be spectacular.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Other matches and angles that were shot at the press conference were the Lucha Bros, Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, had a little square off with the Young Bucks. And those guys have had great matches in Mexico and in PWG for a while. I think this is a really good build here for that match as well.
Definitely.
Also, SoCal Uncensored, which is Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky, challenged Shima. Shima is the leader of this OWE faction, Oriental Wrestling Entertainment from, I think, China, Japan. They challenged Shima to find two cohorts within OEW, or OWE rather, that would team with him against SoCal Uncensored at the Double or Nothing show. So we'll get to see maybe some OWE talent spotlighted here in this match. And like I said, I'm always down for new experiences, seeing new talent.
Exposure, man. I'm down.
More exposure.
Absolutely.
We also heard of a partnership with AAA in Mexico. This is something that, again, we talked about back at the Wrestle Kingdom episode, how the more that AEW can get along with other organizations internationally is probably for the best.
Yeah.
If you have OWE that you can partner with, AAA in Mexico, maybe also CMLL.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
New Japan, perhaps.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this dynamic with AEW also, where AEW, it seems, is trying to keep as many doors open as possible, and making different partnerships with different promotions from all over the globe.
Right.
Whereas you have WWE, who is very much, I am the only thing that exists.
Secular, secluded.
Right. And only recently did WWE even start mentioning like UFC and things like that in it. And so it's really cool to see AEW. I know they're not, fully established, doing weekly shows and things like that, but it's good to see a big American-based wrestling promotion that is not pretending like they're the only thing that exists in the world of wrestling. I like that a lot.
Well, and I think tickets go on sale for this show tomorrow. Apparently, the venue that they're having Double or Nothing at was calculated for about 14,000, but with the number of promo ticket requests that they've gotten, we're talking about maybe close to 20 to 30,000 people who would attend this.
Nice.
Which would be a huge victory for those guys.
Absolutely.
So that's a very large show for a startup wrestling organization.
Yeah. Well, if you take the highest number of that, 30,000, look at the Royal Rumble that just happened, 40,000.
Yeah.
And that's 30,000 for a promotion that has only done one show. So that would be, if they could get those numbers, that would be huge for them.
Well, we're also going to have Hangman Page versus Pac, which is going to be a really good match.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of both those guys. We could also see who knows what's going to happen between now and then? It's
Yeah.
I would hope that maybe somebody like Kenta might end up joining. I know that they also signed Chucky T and Trent Beretta, the best friends. They're a really good tag team.
Gotcha.
I know that they signed Jimmy Havoc, who he's from Progress. Mm-hmm. He's really, really good.
Really cool gimmick too.
Really cool gimmick. I think that they're just a few pieces away from having something really special. I think maybe if you had Kenta or Hideo Itami, however you know him, Kenta joining would be big. Kota Ibushi is another name that I would like to throw out there as a possibility, because Kenny Omega talked about that in his interview with Dave Meltzer, how he's trying to angle for that to happen. Dean Ambrose, or as he went by on the indie scene, John Moxley. If you had him against Jimmy Havoc in a death match, like an actual hardcore death match, I think it would blow the roof off the place. Yeah. So there's so many things that you can do, and I think there are just a few signings away from having something really special. I know the Usos was rumored here at one point. I think the AEW can build a really great tag division.
Yes,
and make that like a staple of theirs. So you'll have obviously the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
You would have if you sign Kota Ibushi, you have the Golden Lovers. Him and Kenny Omega. You have
it's a strange name, but yes,
it's man, whatever.
Yeah,
great tag team.
Yeah.
You have the Lucha Bros, again, Pentagon and Phoenix. You would have the Revival, perhaps. If you can sign the Revival, you might have the Usos if you can sign the Usos. I mean, that right there is an amazing lineup. And then the best friends, Chucky T and Trent Beretta, another great tag team. Yeah. All the guys from SoCal Uncensored, another great team.
Again, with the tag team division right now sucking at WWE.
Man, that's hard.
Man, tell them how you really feel, J-Raw.
Being honest, that is a real weak spot that AEW can easily flip.
Yeah.
And draw eyes to. Just watch. Be on the watch for that. If they keep screwing around, be on the watch for what AEW is going to do. And draw eyes to them.
It was worth noting here something that Kenny Omega said in that interview. He talked about how accommodating and how professional it was to work with WWE on maybe contract possibilities, and how they painted the picture of what Kenny Omega in WWE, how that would look. And I think that Kenny does stress a lot on how creative can he be. Yeah, and how what direction he needs to be, and I think that a lot of that weight would have been taken off of him had he joined WWE, and it would have been very interesting to see maybe how that would have played out. But I think that that's maybe part of who Kenny is he's a very creative
sort
spirit.
Of like the Peyton Manning of wrestling, where it's like he calls his own plays, doesn't necessarily need a coach.
Well, that's
just a facilitator.
I mean, that's kind of the way that he talked in this interview. Was what ultimately it came down to wasn't money, and I think that's what a lot of these guys are deciding nowadays. Is it's not about the money; it's about creative control.
Well, I mean, if your two biggest options are WWE and AEW, you're getting a lot of money either way,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
too. I don't think Cody was struggling financially when he was Stardust.
Right.
I mean? Not saying he's struggling financially now. I'm just saying
he's probably making
money wasn't why he was, why he decided not to be Stardust.
a lot of the guys on
Get out of here.
Right. Well, but a lot of the guys on the indie scene can make as much money as a guy in the WWE does. You just have to work hard at it and get yourself big enough and have enough dates to work that out. So it's not like anybody in New Japan's having a rough time trying to get their life together, right?
Right.
It's not like anybody in like Ring of Honor's having a tough time. I mean, you can find a way to make a very good living doing what you do.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how hard do you want it and how hard you want to work at it. I think that for Kenny, it was just a matter of creative and wanting to be able to express himself and be a part of something new. What was interesting is he noted that New Japan would have been like his last option.
Yeah.
Because he'd been told to kind of about how the angles are going to go for him. And I mean, I think he still has that capability and that flexibility of being able to go back to New Japan whenever he wants. It's built into his contract at this point. So where if New Japan calls him and says, hey, we would like to have you for X, Y, and Z, it's not like they have to negotiate with AEW.
Right.
It's just they negotiate with Kenny directly. And
Yep.
if Kenny has the scheduling for it, then he'll go. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's just plain and simple.
Yeah.
I like that deal.
Yeah, I do too.
Great deal for Kenny.
So, I mean, this is definitely, I think WWE should definitely treat this as a pretty big threat, especially considering the amount of ticket demand that there's been for this show now. Considering that we're going to know a lot tomorrow, which is Monday, about how the ticket sales go. I wouldn't be surprised if it sold out within 10 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
WWE
should be looking at this as a big loss.
Well,
honestly,
what I'll say is, I'll say this: the reason I keep harping on the tag team division was, you guys know this because you know the history of the Raw, WCW wars, but WWE at the time didn't have a strong cruiserweight division, and WCW, that was one of their biggest strengths. So it's like, that's what made them almost take WWE over, was they had something that WWE didn't. And now with this tag team, I'm telling you.
Well, and one of the other,
keep your eyes open.
especially one of the, and you touched on it a little bit there, one of the biggest things that WCW had going for it were these partnerships that they had with companies in Mexico and companies in Japan, to where they can be like, oh, okay, well, hey, we'll loan out some of our talent to you, and you loan out some of your talent to us, and we'll kind of, make a shared kind of thing here. And I think you're gonna be able to have these really great dream matches. Kenny even noted he wouldn't mind working with WWE as part of AEW, which is, I mean that's, you would have to really call the shots WWE's way, but I mean, it at least is a very interesting take that people inside AEW aren't opposed necessarily to working with WWE on something. They don't see it as a war like what it was between WWE and WCW. They just want to make their product the best product. Yeah, I mean, and who can blame you?
Yeah. Has Ibushi and Omega ever worked together?
Like in terms of having a one-on-one match?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I would like to see that again.
So,
I would like to see the archive of that.
So
I would like to see that.
It's actually on New Japan Wrestling World. So that's their streaming service, like the WWE Network is. Again, it's only about $9, $10. But they had a match just last year at the G1 tournament, where Kenny and Kota Ibushi were in the semifinals against each other, basically. Nice. So Kenny, as the champ, faced his best friend Kota Ibushi and lost. Kota Ibushi went over in that match and went up the next night to face Tanahashi, and Tanahashi ultimately won the tournament. But that was a spectacular match. Ibushi and Kenny, that was great. Absolutely, highly recommend it.
Nice.
But all this kind of leads to my argument. Like, I know we can talk about dream signings like Ibushi and perhaps Kenta and perhaps the Usos or the Revival or whoever. We can talk about all these dream signings, Dean Ambrose, who could possibly all come into AEW. But my question that I would have for you guys, and I want to kind of play something out here, the market that AEW kind of has its eye on, the market, the people who appeal or who AEW would appeal to would be us here in this room, more hardcore fans who watch a lot of wrestling, who know a lot about how the business works. These are the people who want to watch it. Whereas WWE purposefully kind of goes for the more casual viewing audience, people who are flipping through the channels and go, "Oh, wrestling's on. I'll just watch some wrestling."
Yeah,
kind of mindless entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So, what would you say to a possibility of maybe should WWE really focus on making sure NXT can be because NXT does appeal to the hardcore audience, maybe propping that up more and making it maybe its own kind of brand to where it can take that audience maybe, or at least share that audience with the AEW.
That's something you just said made me think about that. How catering to casual fans. I wonder, because you watch an indie match and it's a storyline, and then the work is spots.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can see a casual fan being like, why are they flipping?
Yeah.
Why are they just
right.
It's like, well, they're trying to show you. But it's like, I can see a casual fan being like, why they just don't, like how the Ospreay match started. They started with a double flip and they landed on their feet and they're like, oh, and it's like, they're not trying to say it's real. They're trying to show you that what they can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't think you're right. I don't think the casual fan probably looks at it and goes, fake.
Right. Yeah, right.
It would drive us nuts.
Right. Like us as more hardcore viewers, we can appreciate that because we watch a lot of wrestling and we're like, oh wow, that's really cool, right? Like, but at the same time,
So I can see how they're doing. I can see how now because I was wondering why are there more spots? Right. Why did they pick them? But I can see now why WWE doesn't go hardcore all out spots. I don't know if NXT could work as a standalone brand just because it is their farm system.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You make that a standalone brand, and then you're going to have guys being like, one, I want more money, and two, why would I go to a weaker system?
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? WWE is a weaker system if you're a wrestler.
Yeah, and that's...
it's the weakest of all the big, four. Ring of Honor, New Japan, WWE, and NXT. It's the weakest of the big four from a wrestling standpoint. You know what I mean? I think the allure of big money is why you can still call people up like, I want to make $200,000 when Nakamura just got a pay raise to $2 million.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair for sure. I guess what my argument to that would be the persistent calling up of people and not booking them correctly is actually far more detrimental to your product than
it is. I'm talking from the wrestler standpoint.
Right. No, and I completely get that. But say if I was Vince, right, I'd like and I had the power to maybe say, okay, well, I can lose all my hardcore audience if I start. I may run the risk of losing my hardcore audience if I bring up somebody like Tommaso Ciampa because I might not know how to book them properly.
Yep.
Or I could keep them in NXT where they are hugely successful. NXT can almost stand alone all the time as its own thing.
Yeah.
And they play out the stories brilliantly. The talent there is really well cultivated. I again, maybe it's just my lack of trust in creative, but I feel
I totally don't trust creative.
Right.
I feel like I'm like, please don't screw up Mustafa Ali. Like I'm just waiting for them to F that up. I'm waiting for them to lose that 6-way match and then be fighting R-Truth for the U.S. I'm just waiting for that shit to happen.
And the flip side is what happens if, say again you bring up Tommaso Ciampa, right? And you don't book him well, and you have another Dean Ambrose situation where Tommaso Ciampa is like, dude, I'm ready to peace out. Like I'm not re-signing my contract. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go.
But when did Ambrose peace out though?
I mean,
after a few years of them checks. He didn't peace out, you know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
He didn't peace out when, you know what I'm saying?
That's fair, but that was before AEW. AEW has now changed the landscape. Where it's like, dude, okay, well, I know I can make this much or more working for them, and I can fight Kenny Omega in a dream match. If I'm Tommaso Ciampa, I'd be like, yeah, I can do that. If you're gonna book me in a match against Nia Jax, I might as well leave here now and go and face Kenny. I might as well go and face Kenny Omega. So I guess at least what I'm ultimately proposing here is you've got those 6 guys who worked halftime heat, right?
Yeah.
Kenny Omega, not Kenny Omega.
I wish.
Right.
Price of admission was halftime heat. I mean, it was better than most of the Royal Rumble matches.
Yeah. I mean, so what I'm proposing is Ricochet, Velveteen Dream, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Aleister Black, and Adam Cole, you need to keep NXT centric with those guys. And if you want to have them come up and feud every now and again, if you need a feud, you can have them expand out and go, or you can have Aleister Black hit SmackDown for a year, or Velveteen Dream hit Raw for a year. But you want to keep it centric around a core of guys like that, because I feel like if you were to move them on up, I just don't trust them. WWE's handling enough to where they would stay, or for one, stay, or two, make it a successful stay.
To your point, Vince has a problem. Like, we can both agree on that. Vince has a problem. If I'm gonna do farm system wrestling that I know, if we see it, they see it, that I know is better than where I'm going, and now I have an option to go somewhere else,
right.
Well, I'm going to get called up to AEW. I'm going to call myself up.
Right.
Might as well.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So Vince has a problem.
Right, of course. And to a point that you've had before, Steven, WWE's roster is too big anyway.
Yep.
Why would Tommaso Ciampa want to go up to to WWE on Raw or on SmackDown when they don't even really book Samoa Joe frequently?
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It seems his booking when it's strong is strong, but it's very infrequent what they do with somebody like Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
Or what they've done with Finn Balor. So I mean, that's my argument for, hey, let's keep these guys as a standalone on its own, at least make NXT centric around these 6 guys here, have them feud and help build other guys like Matt Riddle, like Keith Lee, like a lot of these other guys who are coming up in NXT right now, and make NXT your hardcore audience centric thing. You can still have NXT, heck, you could have an NXT title match at WrestleMania if you wanted to. You probably won't, because you'll probably have a takeover before then.
Yeah.
But you could potentially do that. Why not have an NXT match at WrestleMania or at a show like what you do with the 205 Live match?
You know,
you can definitely do these
I was
things.
just thinking it'd be really cool if they do decide to, and I don't think they would, but if they do decide to make NXT its own brand, but still within the WWE ecosystem, it would be really cool if they did kind of like an NXT versus main roster like feud, where every now and then you have like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa just go, run through
against the Usos,
or just like run through
cool.
backstage and demolish everybody and then leave. And just have like little small promos like that to keep it interesting and be like, oh, these guys at NXT are really like crazy and nuts, and we should go check out what they're doing over there.
Of course, or like, have that happen on Raw, and then the next night on SmackDown, like Daniel Bryan's cutting a promo, and then the lights go black, and then they come back on, and Aleister Black's in the ring, and he gives Daniel Bryan a black mask or something like that. That's
what
cool.
I'll say is, Vince has his own little world, and it's about to get rocked.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's gonna have to figure something out. I mean, making NXT its own brand would be a good resolution. I'm just concerned about the pay. I mean, do you turn around and give them comp on their merch?
I would absolutely, if I was Vince and it came down to, okay, do I pay these guys more, or do I lose the audience that keeps coming back to see my shows, the hardcore audience, the people who are devoted to watching the show every week? Hell, whatever amount of money they want.
Yeah,
I will gladly double the pay of all 6 of those guys.
It may come to that. It may come to that because, again, I don't think Dean Ambrose was poorly booked. I thought that, Anarchy thing, I thought that was getting him in his groove. I thought a heel turn was what he was missing.
I thought so too.
But if that's the better booking and guys are like, I'm not getting booked well, then, I mean, good God, what kind of case does Samoa Joe have?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and if you check
and if that's going to be the vibe of the locker room, and AEW is coming up, you're going to have to do something.
Well, and we don't have to look much further than Dean Ambrose to present this argument, because, and like we were talking about on the Knockout series, again, you can find the Knockout series on YouTube. Episode 1, we talked a little bit about Dean Ambrose and kind of how his feeling behind creative was he's tired of the hokiness of it, right? Like, it's old wrestling tropes of, oh, I'm going to go to the doctor and get some shots because I don't want to be around the fans. The fans might give me diseases and stuff like that. That's kind of one of those hokey Vince McMahon kind of things.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well,
Yeah, Cincinnati, you guys are dirty.
Right, exactly. I mean, do I trust Vince more to build my character, or do I trust Triple H more to build my character? I'm going to go with Triple H because he was an actual wrestler who's been there and been on the receiving end of those kind of talks himself.
And he's proven it so far.
And he's proven it.
Yeah.
So,
but that's why I don't get the tropes. They're not hokey in NXT, but they are traditional wrestling tropes.
Yeah.
Gargano and Ciampa is easily Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty. Like that's
except Marty Jannetty's not nearly as good as either one of those two guys.
No, I'm just saying.
Right. No, I get your sentiment. Yeah, I get your sentiment.
Best friends turned on each other.
Breaking up.
One tries to get one to turn heel.
Yeah.
Like it's a traditional.
It's a classic story for sure.
You know? So,
I guess if
I don't know why, like NXT has got some kind of magic. Like I don't know why their stuff works and WWE is just. I don't know if it's because WWE is so next to it that we can compare NXT to it. But it's I
think WWE has investors. The fact that they're they're a publicly traded company, and because they have advertisers to listen to, I think that they can't take the handbrake off as easy as they could with NXT, who that's their own product, who you can find that on the WWE network. You have to be a subscriber to get that. It's not like you're going to see NXT pop up on the USA network,
right?
At any time soon. But that's what I'm saying is if you take the handbrake off on NXT and Vince tells Triple H, hey, do it however which way you want to do it.
WWE
you can have
networks are private products, so they could curse.
Well, you
could just go.
Well, I don't think they even cuss necessarily. It's just that they have just a different.
I'm saying it's a private product, so it wouldn't be held to.
Right.
Like they could just slap a mature on it, and they could just go adult.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that if it was down to okay, do I potentially risk losing 6 guys, or do I make NXT kind of its own thing and just take the handbrake off it? It's obviously still owned by WWE, but you let Hunter run it exclusively.
It's a good thought.
I think that would be really cool.
End up having a better weapon in the feud with AEW here at this point.
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool idea, and it would be a really good way to keep a hold of the hardcore fans like us. The only thing that I would say to that, which would be a problem with it becoming that, would be they've built it so much and so long as the development league for WWE, and there's been for years there's been this huge thing of calling people up and people earning their spot on the main roster and everything like that. And so if you do make it to where they are separate and there isn't consistent call-ups to the main roster, then whenever you get new talent, how do you decide which roster they go on? How do you decide where they're going to fit best? Who decides where they go, and things like that,
Well, I think you just have to work it out, kind of like what AEW would have to work out with New Japan. Is be like, okay, well, if I'm AEW and I want to borrow Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. for on loan for 6 months or 3 months or whatever, you work out that kind of deal, and you maybe send a couple other guys in the other direction to work for the other company. Yeah. You can work this all out. So I just feel as though it'd be interesting if you had, say, Triple H running NXT as its own thing, its own kind of gimmick. It's still owned by WWE, of course. You still can film it at Full Sail. You can still have house shows nationwide. You can still do all these WWE related and centric things, but have it appeal to that hardcore base and have these kind of mainstay talents that you enjoy seeing week in, week out. You can still pluck a guy like Ricochet out and put him over to Raw.
I was going to ask, would you still want there to be call-ups?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or don't even call it a call-up. Just be like, have Ricochet make a debut.
Yeah.
Or
NXT Invasion or something.
Or an invasion of some kind. Be like, oh, I didn't know Tommaso Ciampa was coming here, and he goes and runs on a rampage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have a little bit more creative licensing, I feel, but you also want to make sure to share that hardcore audience, and I think that there's there's already something to be said. There's already a really good example of this here WWE is slightly partnered with Progress Wrestling in the UK, which is like you'll see guys like Pete Dunne got his name in Progress.
So that's how the UK champions.
Yeah, Tyler Bate has been in Progress. Walter,
Mustache Mountain.
Yeah, Mustache Mountain. Him and Trent Seven from Mustache Mountain are in Progress. The current Progress World Heavyweight Champion is Walter, who just made his debut in NXT UK. So they have a slight partnership, but these guys aren't exclusive to WWE. They still wrestle in Progress.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you could do something where, hey, you let NXT run its own kind of thing. You can still have them kind of jump back and forth with me in WWE, and that would also open up the door to where, if you're a hardcore fan, you could possibly see NXT and AEW do a partnership kind of thing, where you could have Tommaso Ciampa versus Kenny Omega. You could have Johnny Gargano versus one of the. Well, I was gonna say maybe the current AAA Cruiserweight champion, who's really good. You could have all sorts or Ricochet versus. Ricochet and Velveteen Dream versus the Young Bucks. That would be cool.
Ooh, yes.
Or the War Raiders versus the Young Bucks.
Aleister Black versus Cody.
Aleister Black versus Cody. Or Aleister Black versus Kota Ibushi. That would be cool.
See, these are all great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that Kenny being in AEW also has the leverage to where you can work those kind of deals out also with New Japan and say, okay, well, yeah, we do want to borrow somebody like Will Ospreay or Zack Sabre Jr. or Okada or whoever. You know, we want to borrow these talents here. So I don't know, just some thoughts.
I like it.
Okay. Do we want to run down any other quick news? I know we talked about Jimmy Havoc and the Best Friends and a lot of other new signings that went with AEW. Y'all, I heard y'all wanted to talk about Jack Swagger real quick and his success in Bellator.
Yeah.
Just real briefly here. Yeah, Jack Swagger.
Jack Swagger. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
To you guys that think wrestling is fake, pull up the tape of Jack Swagger handling that young boy. People forget that these guys are athletes, man. And when Jack Swagger went to break that dude's arm, dude looked like a little kid moving around in circles. Stop playing. Man,
J-Raw.
Man.
No, it was really cool to see, though, especially because I know you heard people, doing comparisons with CM Punk and Jack Swagger.
Yeah.
I'm going to make one of those comparisons real quick.
Yeah.
It was just kind of cool to see someone that I know from WWE, like that is how I know Jack Swagger, to go into an actual MMA event and wreck shop. I thought was awesome to see.
You got to remember, not CM Punk, but Jack Swagger. A lot of these guys have real wrestling background.
Right, but you see them in WWE and everyone kind of just writes them off because they're like, it's all fake. This guy just has some muscles.
Yeah, no, Jack Swagger's a legit collegiate All-American from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So he knows probably better than almost anybody as far as MMA what combat is and how to actually proceed with holds and how to maybe control your opponent, and it was a very good debut in Bellator.
Yep.
And from an analytical perspective, American wrestlers are hard to beat because they have a ground game, plus they have a strong chin.
Yeah.
And they're typically big as crap.
Yeah.
So those are like from people with American wrestling background, not the choreographed wrestling, but the competitive wrestling, collegiate. They're really hard to beat because, like I said, they're big, strong chin, and have a strong ground game. So that's you can't really. They're strong in all three phases.
And one thing real quick too about collegiate wrestlers who go into MMA, and I know this. A big shout out to Joe Rogan and his podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. I've heard them discuss it with him and other different MMA experts. It's a lot easier for a wrestler to transition and learn other
forms.
Other forms like kickboxing or boxing. It's a lot easier for a wrestler to pick up on striking, perhaps, than it is for maybe somebody who's trained as a striker, in boxing or kickboxing, or maybe even, I mean, you could definitely argue that maybe jiu-jitsu is a little bit closer to wrestling, but
jiu-jitsu and wrestling are the two main ground game, aspects to MMA.
And I think that it would be difficult for somebody who's maybe like a Conor McGregor, who doesn't have a grappling background, and more of a striking background, to kind of learn grappling than maybe somebody like Habib Nurmagomedov, who he's a wrestler, a pure wrestler who can also strike. I think it's very interesting. I think I do wish Jack Swagger all the best in his career.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we move on to our final segment, which I'm very excited about, we'll make it brief. But I just want to talk about that. But is there any other news that we want to discuss before we get to our final segment?
One thing I wanted to get to, I was going to say, hold on. I was going to say one thing.
Steven says he's good.
On the Jack Swagger situation, that was one thing Brock had to learn. His first match, or second or third match against Frank Mir, he didn't have ground defense, and Mir nearly broke his foot. So it's like you said, to that striking versus grappling aspect.
Well, and Brock was a collegiate wrestler as well, but he had taken so much time away from
it. He was far removed from it. Plus, like I said, he didn't have very good ground defense at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and one could argue maybe Jack Swagger went to a better collegiate wrestling school than maybe Brock did. I don't know. I mean, that's up for collegiate wrestling experts to decide. Just real quick here, we've got a new segment.
Here we go.
I definitely want to have some fun with this one.
Buckle
here.
Up.
So we're gonna call this one Deep Thoughts. Okay, so I want
this one deep. For this segment, this thought is deep.
This is an interesting thought here. So
most our thoughts will be deep, but this thought is a deep thought.
So I want the both of y'all to close your eyes and to really focus on this here. Okay?
Imagine the world.
Imagine the world. Okay. Now, my inspiration for this topic here. Again, I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and he had a very famous show with Elon Musk where they talked about AI at length. AI, artificial intelligence, robots.
Oh, I knew something was wrong. Elon Musk was involved.
Technology, the end of the world. It was very much like the second Terminator movie being talked about into life. Now, I've also seen that that Disney has these robots now.
Why, right? Disney?
Yeah. Disney's created these robots here that are extremely acrobatic, have human-like reflexes and movement.
These weapons.
Now, my question to you guys is, when will we see artificial intelligence in professional wrestling? And is that something that you guys would like to see? Robots in wrestling.
Now, I've seen these robots Disney made. And these fools
geez, J-Rock,
could not stop at a pogo stick doing flips. They had to create a full man.
Yeah.
Now, why? Well, why not just put some flesh and bones on it? And just give it its own thought, so it can just go ahead and just create the Terminator. These dudes created the Terminator.
Well, I think that
no one don't want to see Terminator wrestle.
Well, the idea behind these Disney robots is to take the place of stuntmen and maybe do Cirque du Soleil type shows where what acrobats would do. But again,
so what you're proposing?
You could put CGI mods on the pogo stick. You don't gotta create a man. They made a man.
So you're proposing a robot wrestling league?
I mean, sure, why not?
Okay.
So someday in the future. Maybe.
So I don't hate it.
Okay.
But here's my problem with it. The reason people like Becky Lynch get such a huge pop from the crowd,
right,
is because she's a human person.
Well, okay.
And so if you take it to a robot wrestling league, there's no personality. There's no characters. It's just.
Well, hold on though.
It's just robots.
It depends on how we book the robots.
God damn it.
Okay. Like if we book the robots strongly enough, I mean.
What does that even mean?
Like you'll have different robots with different names and personalities, and you could make it held in a larger arena. Kind of like did you watch the third Thor movie?
Yeah.
Ragnarok. Yeah. You know how like Thor, and if you guys post us back or write in the comments that we're giving away spoilers to this movie, I'm gonna block you. All right.
Yes.
But should have seen it by now.
You should have seen it by now. Don't complain about me giving away spoilers here. But yes, there is a scene where the Hulk and Thor have this fight in this Coliseum.
Yeah.
You could have a similar sort of thing with these robot warriors.
They had the things flipping and landing in ready-made holes and nets.
Well,
Have you guys ever seen the game WWE All Stars?
yeah.
What if it's like that, but with robots, where they're jumping like 30 feet in the air?
But that's what I'm saying. Like you could do so many things. Like and I know that Ricochet's able to do these moves, but Ricochet's already superhuman.
Yeah.
But here's the one bad part about it being Ricochet. He still has knees. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's what I'm
you
gonna
can have these robots be rebuilt to.
Here's what I'm gonna go with. Here's what's gonna settle the conversation.
Okay, J-Rock.
Who's controlling the robots?
Yeah.
If they're controlling themselves, I'm out. I'm out.
Well,
Yeah, he turns to the crowd. He's like, "I'm gonna draw some real heat now." He just goes on a murder.
If he's poorly booked and pissed off about his booking, you don't want to be in that stadium.
Well,
You don't want to be in that stadium.
I actually didn't.
And will they have lasers in their eyes? Because if they have lasers in their eyes,
Freaking laser beams.
I'm out.
I mean, you could.
They have laser beams.
You could. So instead of bookers, I mean, you could really just have coders who would book the robots and basically write in like their personalities and stuff with coding and just make it that way.
So they would. No one would be directly controlling them then. They would be making their.
It's not like I would be behind a glass screen with like a controller and like actually manipulating the robots. I mean, the robots would have like coded in moves that they would know how to, do like a suplex or a shooting star press. Or,
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to this. Definitely not. I'd give it a shot.
It reminds me of that
depends.
scene. It reminds me of that scene in Westworld when spoiler alert.
Great show.
Great show.
Great show. When the guy who created Westworld, they created an AI of him, and they had him keep living the same day.
Yeah.
And he thought he was actually living the same day. He thought he was actually living, it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but they were doing it all to mine some level of information from him, thinking that they could program the info into his head. See, all that's too much because once he realized he's been being effed with, like, who's going to cut him off? Is there a button on the back of his neck? I'm not going in that room.
So
if you can't remotely cut them off, leave them in there.
So you're very afraid that ultimately what's going to happen is I'm going to have all these robots stored away somewhere and they're going to snap out of it
and
and come to life.
They're going to realize they're robots.
It's going to become iRobot.
iRobot or the Terminator.
But with wrestling moves instead.
Exactly.
And they're all going to have wrestling moves.
Yeah.
At least that dude couldn't fight.
He goes on a people's elbow murdering spree.
Of all the ways that I could see myself going, being rock bottomed into the pool by a robot and getting electrocuted to death that's a pretty good one.
That's a pretty rad
I will take that.
One of them's gonna hit the people's elbow off like the Empire State Building, and
I get kicked in the gut, and there's a Spanish fly done into the back of a pool, and I have to flip with the robot.
Oh Lord!
Yeah. So I mean, yay or nay to robots in wrestling?
Yay.
Yay.
I'll try it out.
I'm gonna have to be a nay.
Okay.
Nay?
Yeah, with certain restrictions, I'm sure.
See, I want robots that can reenact old wrestling shows.
Yeah.
And old wrestling matches.
That would be cool.
That would be dope.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'll see it in the future, but we're gonna have to be very, very careful, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Very sensitive subject.
Do y'all have any final thoughts on this deep thoughts segment?
No, we've gone pretty deep.
Gone pretty deep.
Cool. Is there any, that's what we're here for in deep thoughts.
Oh yeah, going
All
deep.
right. Is there anything else that y'all want to talk about before we go?
I'd love to see a robot hit a Stone Cold Stunner.
That would be cool, right?
Good Lord.
Cool. Yeah.
Just throwing it out there, since I am the nay.
Oh, okay.
Just throwing it out there. A simple, suplex, belly suplex, DDT.
You got it.
Gave Stone Cold Steve Austin a near career-ending injury.
Yeah.
So imagine a Robo Stone Cold Stunner.
It would end your whole world.
It would end your whole world. You wouldn't have a career or a life.
Or a life.
Yeah. But that's what the other robot's for, right?
Yeah. See, when you originally pitched me this idea, I was thinking like next year they bring in like a robot on the main roster, like to fight Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship.
This is T82 versus Daniel Bryan for
Lord.
the WWE title.
Spoiler alert: only one of them leaves alive.
Lord.
Well, I mean, but the robot's not really alive, right? So I mean, technically that would be the correct way to pitch it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess so.
Yes.
Or no one leaves alive.
Or no one
And the robot walks out with Daniel Bryan.
holding his head.
That
Oh, God.
Remember No
Is that
Holds
not where you were
Barred?
going?
All right,
or-
no.
Oh, okay.
Remember No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. AI robots give me that.
There'd be some barred holds.
AI robots give me that same sense of dread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you weren't a fan of that movie?
As a little kid, it was scary as crap.
Oh, okay.
You know, the only
Devo
thing...
was scary in that movie.
You wouldn't really be able to do very good steel cage matches with robots because they can scale that thing too quickly.
What if it's like an electric steel cage?
God,
Good Lord, did you just try to
I don't think you can.
You're gonna get,
I don't think you can get permits for that.
robot rights violation?
No, but hold on. Robot rights.
Robots rights.
I mean, you gotta assume that by the time we have. You gotta assume that by the time we have a robot wrestling league, there's gonna be some kind of robot constitution, right?
Yeah, there's gonna be some level.
Robots rights.
Yeah, robot bill of rights.
But I mean, fair enough.
You're like, wait. Okay, you're probably
And
right.
I'm sure at least at the top of that list is gonna be you can't put them in electric cages.
Hey, I mean, you know
The
what?
challenge.
That's the first robot amendment.
That's probably gonna be the
No electrified
If
cages.
it's not at the top,
Underline.
it's going to be an amendment. The
Yeah.
second somebody thinks of that, it's going to be an amendment.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I mean,
all right.
fair enough. Well,
That was an interesting ending, y'all.
I'm glad.
That was interesting. That's definitely a deep thought. Well, I hope you guys enjoy our deep thought segment.
How deep did we go, J-Ro?
That was pretty deep.
Yeah.
That was pretty deep. We just almost discussed how the end of the world is gonna begin. It will begin with treating robots as entertainment.
And it's all thanks to Vince McMahon.
That's how it's gonna begin. That will be the beginning.
I'm Vince McMahon, and this is my robot fighting league. Look how hard they hit each other. The RFL Robot Fighting League.
Well, at least Vince will say something. At least Vince will say something better than. I mean, that's a lot of steel. Sounds a lot better than that's a lot of beef.
Hey, there you go. That's a lot of bolts.
But Vince will, if we're being honest, Vince will probably say that's a lot of nuts.
That's a lot of nuts.
That's probably what Vince is gonna say.
Well,
It's been an eventful afternoon, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it very much has. It's been long in form, and I'm glad that we could get back together and do this. We'll come back again next week and talk about the Elimination Chamber and the build up to next Sunday's show.
Yeah.
Before we go, I did want to just make a quick note. I had a close family friend pass away earlier this week.
Oh, man,
Mr. J.O. Mackey. He was a heck of a guy. He passed away in his sleep taking a nap while vacationing in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And he definitely lived a very good life. He was, like I said, he was a heck of a guy. And I'm sure that if it was up to him, to pass away in Mexico, there's hardly a better place to do so while he was vacationing with his wife. So our thoughts are with his wife and his family. Definitely. And definitely, we'll all miss you, Mr. Mackey. So
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Gentlemen, is there anything else that y'all want to talk about before we go?
I'm excited for Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see where these stories go. I think after a very predictable Rumble, we're back to the unpredictability.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, guys, like I said, it's been a pleasure. Once again, our thoughts are with Mr. Mackey and his wife and his family. We appreciate you guys for listening, and we will see you again next week.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Take care and have a great rest of the week. Okay.
Yes. This has been Headlock Talk.
Headlock Talk. Oh, and don't forget to write us questions. headlocktalk@gmail.com.
Yes. We will add you to our mailbag and add you to our podcast.
Definitely, and give us a follow on Twitter at Headlock Talk. We're on Twitter, so give us a call, send us a message, tweet us, hit that subscribe button, follow us.
Like and subscribe on YouTube as well.
YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can find us on all of those. But until then, guys, peace.
Later, y'all.